Once upon a time, in the darkest of ages, hideous trolls blockaded the way between our world and the next, until one day, 3 billy goats knocked them into the betwixt, toppling their reign forever. Since that time, those who would shepherd their way across the void have weaponized their flocks into monster goats, called Gruffs. You are one of these shepherds. Using foul science and forbidden magic, you have bred the meanest, weirdest, and fattest goats that the world has ever seen. Your journey across the betwixt will be perilous. Other shepherds, driven insane by their herds, will try to block your way, trample them under hoof, and conquer the pastures that lie beyond. All right, I think we're good. We can wrap it up, right? Go ahead and... What do you mean I gotta cover the rest of the game? Alright, what's going on, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Going Analog. My name is BouseFeenux, and today we're covering an awesome little card game by Brent Crinchfield and Studio Woe called Gruff. Now, as we saw from the little excerpt that I read you earlier, it is a pretty unique theme, if you want to call it that. I haven't really seen anything like this, and I like how they took I like how Brent took a common fairy tale, the Billy Goat's Gruff, and he turned it into something a little darker. It kind of reminds me of American McGee, who's one of my favorite people for doing stuff like that. But dark fairy tale, it's got kind of a science theme to it, like a weird science, kind of high fantasy. There's a lot of cool themes going on here, and it all comes together very well. And a lot of it is told through the game's art style. There's some flavor text on the cards. There's a lot of love that went into this game. I had the actual pleasure of meeting Brent at PAX South, where I actually picked up this game. I bought it from the creator's hands, so I was really excited to do that. This was one of the best looking games that I saw at PAX South for the tabletop side, and I gotta say, when the first time I played it, I was pretty much hooked. It's a lot of fun. It's a game I'd actually like to play a lot more, but it plays for about 2 to 4 players. It plays in 30 minutes, and you can pick it up for around $30, which is kind of that sweet spot for a card game for me. That's typically what card games run for. They're anywhere from the $30 to $40 range, and this game comes with a ton of cards and a ton of customization, and they also just recently released a expansion to this called Clash, I believe. I'll have to check that to make sure, but I'm pretty sure the expansion's called Clash, and it adds a lot of new cards, some new shepherds, a lot of cool things in that. So let's go ahead and open up the box and see what we're working with here. The one thing that I do love about this game is its box design. The game comes in a fat pack, which for those of you that are familiar with Magic the Gathering or any other trading card games, you can buy large amounts of cards in what's called a fat pack, but they've chosen to use that to box their entire game, so this is very easy to take with you to a friend's house. I mean, if you have friends, unlike me. The instruction book is very well designed. The rules are awesome. It comes with an actual quick start demo that you can play that we'll probably be doing a demo of right here. The card art is amazing for this game. It's all very well detailed. You have your little dashboard for your characters here. You play as what's called a shepherd, and at the beginning of the game you take 3 goats, and each of those 3 goats gets 8 cards associated with them. So it's almost like, it's kind of like a MOBA a little bit, where you have your hero and you do all this stuff like that, but it's a little bit more RTS based than that, like a real-time strategy game. You have your units and you move them around and stuff like that. And that's one of the cool things you can do. It's a card game, but it's got a movement mechanic to it, where you can move your cards around and avoid disaster and stuff like that, give you a chance to kind of get out of harm's way. But inside the box, not really a whole lot here. We've got these clips that go on the bottom of the cards to kind of track your stats as your characters level up. These are also for the goats as well. And then we've got a little gap tooth trophy here, which doesn't really serve any purpose. It's just really cool. It's a neat little addition to the game. I've seen some people painting these, and they look amazing. And then, of course, we got the goats themselves, which I'm really OCD, so I went ahead and arranged all my goats, which have oversized cards, which is awesome. It helps you organize the game really well. I went ahead and organized all my goats with all their different powers and their cards that go with them. So, really awesome game. I'm really excited to show it to you guys today. Let me take a second here, set this up, and I'll show you guys a quick demo of how it plays. Okay, guys, welcome back. So I've gone ahead and basically just taken the start hand deck from the book here, and what you can do, though, you can set yourself up a couple different ways. This game works with a draft system, so you can draft your shepherds, you can draft your goats, and then draft those cards as well. which I think is really cool. So they give the option of going pre-constructed, going through the box, picking out exactly what you want, or there's a little draft mechanic as well, which I know a lot of people really like. Myself, I like the draft mechanic as well. I like just being able to choose, you know, out of what's there and trying to work with what's in front of me rather than going through a lot of cards and trying to build a deck that way. I feel like it puts everybody on a lot more even playing field. But what you're going to do is you're going to take all your counters and stick them on the little bubbles here where the, you know, the starting points are. You'll do this for your goats, you'll do this for your shepherds, and then they just stick on like that, and whenever something happens, you move them up and down to indicate where you are. You don't have to do that, but I think it's really cool, and I think it helps you keep track of things a little bit easier than like using a pen and paper. So go ahead and stick those on there on their starting points, and then you're pretty much good to go. So what you'll do, like I said earlier, you'll pick a shepherd, 3 goats, and then 8 cards for each of those goats. Those all get shuffled together in one deck, and then your goats are put out in front of you. So shuffle everything together, and you're set to go. So put these out here, put your shepherd behind you. So your goats act kind of like your front line of defense. They're going to be protecting you from the other goats. You lose the game whenever your shepherd dies. So that's really important to know. The first player to lose their shepherd loses the game. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw 5 cards. And this game pretty much just plays a lot like Magic the Gathering. You draw a card, you activate your Gruff, whichever one you want to use for that turn, by turning it sideways like this, and then he's activated and ready to go. And then you can play any of the cards from your hand, and then after that you choose an action for your Gruff. So those actions are move, where if you want to move him a certain place. Some Gruffs get bonuses for being moved, some of them get debuffs for being moved, so you got to kind of play tactically there. And then you can grow them, so if you want to increase one of the stats of your Gruffs, you can do that on your turn, or you can resurrect. So the cool thing about this game is if your Gruff dies, he's not totally out of the game. On the next turn, if all of your Gruffs are, you know, if you've activated all your Gruffs, if they're all turned to the side like this, some of them might be dead, some of them might be whatever. When all of your Gruffs are spent, essentially, you just resurrect them and keep going until one player kills the other. It's pretty simple. A lot of the game comes in just learning how to play these cards and then the strategy behind that. So I think that's really cool. It's a nice little game to get into. It's easy to learn, difficult to master. That's one of the things about this game, is I felt like, and some of you may disagree if you've played this game, and I'm sure Brent would disagree himself, but the one thing I felt was the game had kind of a high learning curve. There is a very high amount of cards in this game, and there's a lot of different options. So if you're not into deck building or anything like that, it can seem kind of overwhelming. But the cool thing about that is, a lot of these cards they have the picture of the Gruff that they pretty much go with on them. You can use any card for any Gruff. One of the things that I do like is he kind of made it easy for you to go through and grab the different cards that you may need for your different Gruff, and you can build a pretty solid deck that way. Once you get more comfortable with the game, see a lot of the different cards, you can kind of get a better idea. And the cool thing is when you're setting up your team here, you pretty much choose like an attack, a defense, and a resource gain, and those are the kind of things that you need, and you can skew that one way or the other if you want to be really tanky, or really quick resource gain, or really, you know, just super offense, you know, try to will your opponent down as quickly as possible. So many strategies with this game. There's a bunch of different multiplayer formats that you can do. I believe they have tournaments for this as well, so if you're into that kind of scene, if you're into the competitive gameplay for card gaming, you can definitely pick this up, and there are people that do tournaments for this as well, which I think is really cool. But overall, a very awesome game. So if I had to go ahead and recommend this or not recommend this, I would definitely say yes, but I wouldn't recommend this to a beginning card game player. If you're brand new to card games, if you've never really played a card game or a board game before, I probably wouldn't pick this one up to start. This is more of an intermediate skill level game. Like I said, it's got kind of a high learning curve. It's pretty easy to pick up though if you've played a few card games and you understand how card games usually work, stuff like that. But I would have to say that I absolutely recommend this game. It's got a beautiful art style, it's got a cool story, it's got a really neat theme. The gameplay is extremely solid. You can do a lot with it. There's so much customization just in this little box with these cards here. There's a lot you can do with the game, and it's extremely portable. That's one of the biggest things for me. If a game has good storage and I can take it places, because what's the point otherwise? So guys, I definitely appreciate you watching this episode of Going Analog. Again, my name is BouseFeenux. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit it with a like. It helps me out a lot here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys at the next episode.